And we are live. Oh man, you have the strategy hacker and the impact influencer coming to you live from LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter to give you these insights. Because we're talking about moving forward in 2022. 2020 was we all know what 2020 was. And 2021 was like we climbing up a little bit, but 2022, that's like the year where we're like, let's move forward, let's get ahead, let's get our wins back. Let's get our capital back, our revenue back, our clients, our customers. Maybe you did the pivoting and maybe you did the shifting. And now we're transitioning and transforming. And I have my great friend, a good mentor of mine, a good colleague of mine, Jimmy, on here to break down what are we looking for as far as moving forward in 2022. So, Jimmy, if you could just introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are, your amazing household name, please do so.
Thanks a lot, Troy. You are the man. First of all, I'm massively impressed with you, and you may think me of a mentor, but I definitely think of you as one too, because you're dynamic and you're dynamite. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jimmy Newsom. I'm the impact influencer. I'm the founder of Jimmy Newsom Consulting and Moving Forward Small Business. I'm also the senior advisor for the New York Marketing Association here in New York City. It's code. I love working with small businesses. You know, one of my vision for my new organization is to reduce the amount of startup failure with small businesses between the first and fifth year by 1 million by the year 2050. You know, and that's important because I like what you said about, that you get kind of like timeline from 2020, 2021, and 2022, and you still got people who are afraid to commit to things because they don't know what's going on. And at the end of the day, it's time to not be afraid. And it's time to just start making commitments based on how you have pivoted, how you have transitioned, because business is still being done and things are still getting done and people are still making moves. So that should not be a reason to freeze. It should be an opportunity for you to go, okay, now let's just make the commitments we know we can make and let's make the best of it. So, this is what I want to do. This is what I am doing with our organization, and this is why I exist.
I love it. This is why I exist. This is what I do. Boom. Mic drop. And for those who don't know me, Troy Sainage, somewhere in here says a strategy hacker. You're probably like, that seems a little whatever, but no, I really am the strategy hacker. I eat and sleep. I've sacrificed my 20s so that you don't have to worry about how to navigate growth and marketing strategy in this current climate of do I TikTok? Do I not TikTok? Is email not dead? No, it's not dead. If you went through the Facebook down phase and you had the blue check mark, your Facebook groups, everything was gone and you had no way to communicate to your entire audience, your entire community, email is still more relevant than ever. So I don't want to tell all the tea. We don't want to tell all the tea. We're going to do this in phases because we want it to be bite-sized. We want it to be processed in a way for you to understand. And so we kind of already laid out the way of the land. You got to kind of see the dynamic of Jimmy. And again, if you really look him up on the internet and search him and stuff, you'd be like, man, we are in for a real treat. And I'm not hyping him up. I don't speak whatever. It's the truth. It's a fact. Go ahead and do your research, not mine, do yours. But when I think about, the first thing when we're looking at the final month of the year, which I still can't believe, I feel like we went from like March and now here we are in December. Like what happened in between? I don't understand. But when we look at the final month, the phase is either we good, we just gonna coast on into 2022, or it's chaos. I need to finish quarter 4 off still strong. I'm worried about Q1. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Jimmy, in your mind, where do businesses need to look at first to just even get clarity?
Well, I mean, of course, you got to look within. You got to do your research. And I don't know. You let me know. Should I drop what my number one thing that all business should do? Is that now, or should I kind of save that?
I mean, if you want to push the red button now, push the red button now.
I'm notorious for not holding back, so I'm not going to hold back. So this is really what you need to do, and it's not sexy. It's dirty. It's so dirty. You probably have to take a shower after this presentation today, because it's just not glamorous. It's competitive analysis. That is what every business right now needs to do, and you could do that for a number of reasons. I think the biggest reason, there's three reasons why you need to do that. You need to determine where you currently are compared to your competitors. You need to see where you're strong at. In regards to your competitors, and you need to determine where you're weak at, because from there you're going to get the blueprint and the roadmap structure that's going to give you the direction that you need to go and focus on. Because and I'm only saying this because over the last month and a half, events are opening up here, so I'm having tons of meetings and events with tons of companies, large and small, and they all are having the same issue, whether they're launching a new product or they're coming out of the gate with a new business idea. And they're like, hey, should I have it be red, or should I do this or that? And I'm like, what does the competitive landscape look like? Because the competitive landscape will give you every aspect of everything you need to understand about the industry you're in and what's possible in regards to, where do I stand? How do I make improvements to reach people? And part of that, and when I talk about research, I'm really talking about online analysis, because as far as I'm concerned, if the business is not online, they're not competitors of yours. So if you're looking for competitors who are worse off than you are when it comes to being online, they're not, as far as I'm concerned, considered a competitive. You need to find people who are crushing it online, whether it's SEO, paid ads, lead generation. All this stuff can be found out leveraging certain tools. And then from there, that's going to give you a great idea to kind of figure out where am I strong at? Where am I weak at? Because even with these tools, the research tells you what your target audience is looking for. And when you know what they're looking for, now all you have to do is create content or create whatever system and place it in front of them at the point that they're making that search, so you can be relevant and you're no longer interrupting them, but you're giving them helpful advice at the time they actually need it.
That's so true. Competitive analysis, y'all. It's deeper than you think. It is deeper than you think. And I like to compare competitive analysis to, if you're in a relationship, whether it's platonic, whatever, courting, whatever. And you know how you go through phases of have these conversations and then, oh, that didn't work out. Oh, that didn't land. If you had a competitive analysis, they love language. You know how to speak to them. You know how they think. You know what they want. You know what they need. And now you can come right in and you can become the brand, the product, the service that they are looking for, because you know all the different ways that they're going to analyze and process and understand what you're trying to do. But I think the other key thing that you brought up through the power of competitive analysis is that the one thing a lot of businesses fail on, they have a perception of how they are seen, how they are being heard. That doesn't mean that's the perception your target ideal audience pool is seeing you. And the only way you can understand if everything you're doing, from content creation through your UX UI, through your website, your landing page, your sales process, all those different things, is understanding what's the perception of how people are seeing me, our brand, our business, our product, our services. And the key thing, does it land, and is it the perception that you need or want it to be for your growth in 2022? Sure. And if it's not, you got to do what Jimmy said, put in the deep work, do the competitive analysis, and see where those are. Because without that, you're going at it blind, hoping for the best. But I'd rather know for a fact what I am being seen and projected as, and either lean that into my favor or try to disqualify those things than coming at it blind and I'm not landing with anybody.
Yeah. And I want to shout out Joe Dexter here. He gave us a lot of fire here, so I guess he's enjoying it. Thank you, sir. And that's the thing. And so competitive analysis is not, like I said, again, it's not a pretty thing. And people are like, I don't want to do that. But competitive analysis, you know how many different ways I leverage competitive analysis? I leverage competitive analysis not just to find competitors, but to find partners. And it is huge. And I'm going to tell you why competitive analysis is so huge from looking for a great partner to partner with, to do something, whether it's for exposure to their audience, to giving educational stuff for them that they can't do on their own. It gives you a chance to figure out where they're weak at and how you can support them better. What's better than you coming to a competitor? And I'm talking about swimming upstream and going to a bigger, not a competitor, going to a potential partner who's bigger than you and helping them identify where they're weak and how you can help them fill that gap. And not only are you filling the gap based on where they're weak, how are you determining that they're weak? Because you're doing an analysis of their competitors, and you're going, here's how your competitors are doing it, here's how we're going to help you compete that way. And they're going, oh. And now it becomes an opportunity where you're paying it forward and you're proving yourself in advance. And now you're going, and now I'm going to take this off of your plate, or we're going to figure out a way to work together. There's so much value in understanding the landscape of you, like I said, again, your competitors and even your potential partners. Every time I get an email from someone that talks about potential partnerships, I immediately do a number of just basic competitive research using tools. I want to see what the traffic looks like. I want to see what their content strategy looks like. I want to see if they're doing events, you know. And I'm talking branding, the whole nine. I want to see how active they are. And then I want to see where they're not active and where I might be able to come in and support them. And then it becomes a real thing. So the value doesn't always have to be monetary. It is relationship based. It's how, you know, I guess I could say this now. It's done. Like I just finished putting together a smaller partnership with SCORE, you know, but it's for a local SCORE in the DC area, is one of the biggest chapters. And it's because I understand where they're weak, you know, and where I can help them. And it was a very easy thing to do when you're thinking from a competitive, you know, how can I help them, and understand from real data, not from my gut, what is actually going on under the hood.
You know, I'm gonna pull a line from Robbie Abed today. He had posted a content. He's doing a new business called Above the Middle. And I was thinking about what he's saying about zone of genius. And he's like, I know what I'm good at. Like I can be a lot of things, but what's the one thing above all else that I know that I'm good at? And then when you know what you're good at, you can understand, how does this fit into different dynamics? Like you said, how do I fit in with different partnerships and possibilities? You can, I think of the Taco Bell method. It's the same ingredients, but they modify it so many different ways. You got a whole Cheesecake Factory like smorgasbord of options from the same ingredients, but they know what they're good at, and they're just modifying it and fitting it, distributing it over and over and over and over again. And taking that field of knowing your zone of genius, coupled with understanding the competitive analysis landscape of your pain points, their wants, their desires, you are now having a distribution machine of making yourself fit. Instead of being that square peg in a circle hole, it don't matter because I'm Play-Doh. I'm going to mold, baby, to whatever spot I need to be in and go through it and be done. And I think that's the thing. I think a lot of organizations are realizing they have to be more nimble, they have to be more flexible, and they have to be more tactical in their approach. And I don't want to make people think you have to see the matrix all the time with data, but data is very important. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, and that's the key. When you understand the data, you're not guessing what to do. You're just determining, how do I want to execute now that I know this? So it's not like you have to try to be all these things. The key is you still have to be 100% sure of who you are and what you do, just like you said. Because when you do, and now you look at these opportunities, well, you may see 10 opportunities, but maybe only 3 of them are good for you,
right, to
work with them. And you can't determine that if your foundation is shaky. And I think that's another thing, you know, it's always a big picture thing to then drill deep into. But there are certain foundational things that have to exist, you know, understanding who you are, your purpose, your vision, your mission, why you exist, what product you sell, what are you willing to do, you know, how far are you willing to reach out, you know, before you do start to morph. Because I don't necessarily want to morph. What I do want to do is figure out how to be creative and innovative with what I do.
Yes.
And when I'm able to do that, now I can, it's funny because when people figure, oh, if I put myself in a box, then I can't be all I can be.
Right.
But one of my mentors said it very well. He goes, when you have structure in place, you actually have more freedom. Because now you can do whatever you need to do based on that structure, but then that's really limitless. But at least now you stay you stay focused, and you're not putting yourself out in a situation where it could be detrimental to yourself or your business. And that, you know, of course there's some flexibility there, but that's how I look at it, because at the end of the day, we're not getting any younger. It ain't getting any easier. and and there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And I always say there's no competition, but there's competition because there are people out there vying for money. And just to dive in deeper on that, do you know there's 5 different types of competitors that you have to consider? Most people think there's only 2, and there's 5. And when you classify those 5, I love when someone says, I really don't have any competitors. Yes, you do. They're just not direct or indirect. They could be replacement competitors. They can be future competitors or potential competitors. And each one of those has a very distinct way description on what they are. And I'll give you a primary example. Let's take a pizza shop. Okay. Pizza shop, a direct competitor is another pizza shop. Done. Indirect competitor of a pizza shop is a burger joint because they don't sell pizzas, but they still satisfy the same need. Now, one that when people say they don't have a competitor, what they realize is you may not have a direct competitor, but you have a what we call a replacement competitor, and that's the 5th one. I just want to bring that one up because the replacement competitor says, I want a pizza, but instead of me going to the pizza shop and ordering the pizza, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy all the ingredients and I'm going to make a family night and make a pizza that way. You just got replaced. And that is a replacement competitor. That means that they can either spend the money with you or and let me give you a better example. I have a colleague, she does events. So she has a special with one of the big museums in the city. And so she goes, well, I have this unique position. I have this unique partnership so that I have no competitors. I go, at the end of the day, you have an experience that this person can get. Now, no one else has that relationship with this museum, but you still have competitors. Why? Because the competitor that you have, the person who would give you that money could decide, I don't want to go to a museum. I'd rather go to a theme park. Totally different. You're not in competition with a theme park, but you are in competition with that dollar. That's a replacement. They replace your entertainment with that entertainment. And that's why you always, always, always have competitors. I don't care how unique you think your product is. You do want to differentiate what uniqueness you have, which is where the competitive analysis is going to help you discover, but do understand that you have a competitor. And that's a good thing because now you have something to look at to make decisions that might be working for them, could also work for you.
What do you say to people? And I've had this happen to me. I know you probably had this happen to you too, where they don't want to know. They want to live in a silo. They don't want to know because they think once they know, it's going to either slow them down, shut them down, or I don't know, psychologically, they're just going to close up shop.
And I get that. And I can answer that. And the problem is people sometimes don't want to hear, like, it's almost like, hey, I just gave this great talk. I love to hear any of your bad feedback. And like, who wants to ask that question? But how do you improve if you don't get that feedback?
Yes,
that is the key. It's like, as much as I don't want to hear how well I'm doing on a presentation or with a client on a project, that is going to, if I improve what they think is the worst part of the experience, that's going to make the next 10 clients happy. Yes. So you have to think about the future of why you want to do this competitive research and understand what's my weakest point. When you do a business plan, you need to talk about SWOT analysis. You need to talk about your not only your strengths, but your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Those 2 things: your threats and your weaknesses. Your weaknesses and what are you not good at, and your threats are who can come in and take what you got. And you need and it's not for you to be afraid of that, but it's for you, for your partners, for your sponsors, for your board advisors, board members, for your customers, to know that you understand that it's not this is not permanent, and you're not closed minded. You don't have the blinders on. Right. That one day you will be sideblind. You will be sideswiped. Hopefully it never happens to you, but there's a really good chance if you've got your eyes closed.
I'll even tag in the threat of being obsolete, the threat of culture. Culture dictates everything. People are like, well, I don't want to do this. I mean, if you thought back, like people look back at Instagram, oh, I'm never gonna get on that. 2011. Now you'd be a fool if you don't have an Instagram account, depending on the industry and business that you are. And you can mirror that to TikTok. I don't want to be on TikTok. Now we got lawyers and people who do Excel for a living and accountants who they're not creative are making bank off just brand awareness on being on a platform that most of their competitors choose not to be on. Not to say that they're not being successful as well, but it's understanding that culture is going to dictate what works. And again, this isn't to force any type of mechanism, way, shape, or form. But if your audience, who are your ideal client, who was going to pay you the money you want to pay as your customer, your clientele, is saying, we consume video, and you over here doing print ads, I don't know what to tell you. If you want to win their heart, that competitive analysis is going to come back beep, 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 and tell you, bruh, the results are in. You got to start doing video. And I think people just think it's a buzz. I'm saying you have to understand what works for you, not just your comfortability. I prefer reading the newspaper and writing 1800 blogs. That's what I prefer in this example here. But your audience is screaming micro content because they want to be digestible and understand it. It's too technical for them. They know you know your stuff, but for them to be signed on, they have to appeal it to their bosses, and it needs to be bite-sized to the point. Okay, what's the point? Make it make sense and move on. And we just have to get out of our own shell sometimes of we've always done it this way. Well, guess what, baby? If you always done it this way and it ain't making you 10x year in, year out, there's room and opportunity to modify and adjust accordingly as you need to be to survive, but hopefully also to thrive too.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, and so I'll talk a little bit about what, we're actually going for a round of funding for my new organization. So we're actually doing an actual full business plan. So, we're not only the client, the hair club client, we're I'm the president, and I'm not a big fan of TikTok. And we're about to launch a podcast sometime probably in the second quarter of 2022. But I've been recently investing time into understanding the platforms. I know podcasting. I've been on a million of them. I understand the social media. I'm on all of them except really for TikTok. But I started going, and today I've been on 3 webinars today, training between my meetings. And today I decided I need to add TikTok because that my mind is in research mode and understanding, does this make sense? And the way it was presented, I was like, crap, I gotta get on TikTok. But not that I want to do it. I'm going to try to figure out a way to have someone do it. But I'm realizing that I'm going to have to do that for this organization because it makes sense for this organization that I have. And the podcast, I had it all written out. And when I saw what I saw, it made sense. And I balanced it against some other competitors, and I saw what they're doing. And I go, here's the uniqueness. Here's the uniqueness. Here's the uniqueness. I just literally had to rewrite my entire podcast structure. And I'm more excited because it's what I want. I want the podcast. I don't really care what the path is. I want the destination.
Yeah.
And so now I've been able to do that. And that's based on, I made the decision that I wanted. But then I use research and analysis to determine what's the best plan of action. So you leverage this in all kinds of ways. Is my competitor doing it? If they're not doing it, and I know it's hot, what's the trends? Do they make sense for my business? Because I'm very clear on our purpose, vision, and mission, how we're supposed to do it. I know we need content because content is king and queen and all that. But, so we need, so I'm going, all right, I need to understand the consumption structure for my base.
I think, to your point, even with me, and if people look me up on TikTok, I'm not doing an abundance of content there. But like you said, Jimmy, I've been definitely on there for a good minute to understand the psychology of it. Understand how is this working? Why is this working? Because it's changed the game. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of Vine back in the day. It reminds me of the golden era of YouTube in 2008, back in the day before we had all these restrictions of getting ads and getting the money, all this stuff. Now it's impossible. We're not going to talk about that. But it reminds me of just, At any given day, you mean to tell me a small business on the corner can make a TikTok, tie in some trending music, be their most authentic self, and can get more viewership and maybe more followership than a brand who's invested all this money in video production to produce a 3-minute video, maybe took them months to do, and here it is. And you mean to tell me a 15 to 60 second, they've actually extended out to 3 minutes, depending on how you post, can outbid you and win through just their phone.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the reason why I didn't want to be on TikTok, and it was a total myth. I was like, no one on TikTok has any money. That I need them to be, which is why I stay on Facebook, LinkedIn, and maybe Instagram a bit. And today, I know someone who's very, very good at teaching this to businesses. And she had posted something about one of her clients, and the client is doing 10 to 20K a month on Instagram, on Snapchat, and it's a B2B. And so at that point, I can't ignore that, right, but I still have questions. So the question is, well, who is, again, I still need to know, I need to figure out what he sells, who his particular target audience is it competitive? Is it relatable to me? Because then I can determine, wow, some of my audience is on TikTok and they are engaging that way. Now, if the question is it a $29 product or is it $1,000 consulting contract? Okay, right. So I still have to do more diligence, but I'm starting to get more interested. But I'm basing it on research, not how I feel.
And I think the other part to your point on the competitive analysis, because that's the theme of this whole thing. We already got the secret sauce, so let's run through it. Put it on everything. I'll put that on everything.
I love that commercial.
It works every year. People still remember it. And it also, y'all, this is how much we twinning today. Same drink. Cheers.
Bam. Yeah. I'm gonna be looking for my check from Vitamin Water. Hey. They don't know it yet. I'm gonna have to call them after this.
They're gonna start promoting for B2B brands and consulting. Let's go. Let's make a whole new line with our signature name on it. I think also competitive analysis is gonna help justify the shiny syndrome, the inclination of just a CEO just one day seeing a cool TikTok like, hey, marketing team, we should be on here. Make it happen. And just wait, we had a plan. Now, can you justify why we need to stop our plan to just create something and make you think that we're going to be in the same level this person might have done it for a long time? They could follow it. They know the secret sauce. This isn't for them. They are in favor with the algorithm, and you just think we're just supposed to create content. We could be understaffed. We could have no staff, one staff. All this stuff comes into play. And so I think also, to your point, competitive analysis protects you from yourself. Even at the top.
Absolutely.
Because we can see ideas, we can see other competitors or partners, and make suggest an idea. And in that one moment, you're like, oh my goodness. And it takes a marketer, it takes a CMO, CTO, whatever your positions or department heads need to come back with data to say, wait, hold up. Before we make a move, let's look at the data. And the data is your best friend. It's going to protect you. It's going to tell you, hey, this isn't working, or we don't have enough data yet. Lead with that. At least give yourself some time. But we understand that sometimes we have different people in corporate environment who just want it done. And so how, Jimmy, would you advise people who are on your same philosophy of, making data-centric decisions? Not that it's just only about the data, but like you said, your gut alone can't be enough to make decisions when you're dealing with a massive business or millions and millions of dollars of a marketing budget. How do you go about kind of sowing that seed of letting data do the talking, but still being very human focused?
Well, I mean, and that's, like I said, and this is where there's the non-pretty part. You have to jump in there and start doing the research. I mean, and like I said, fortunately, there are tools available to help you do that. So you need to leverage tools. You can do a search. I'm not going to name any tools today, so it doesn't put people out, but you can do, competitive research tools, and those tools can, the data is only as good as you know how to use it. So you need to understand what the data means so you can determine, is this valuable, and how do I make a case for it? Because, any CFO or anybody on the financial side is going to get it when you're showing them data points and how that relates to finances and, spends and budget asked and all this stuff, you're going to have a better leg to stand on than we shouldn't do that right now. Let's do this instead, especially when someone above you is going, no, I want to do that. And you're going, but you're going to upend everything we've been working on because it just doesn't make sense right now. So the data is your best friend. Get some.
Put that on a bumper sticker, y'all. Data is your best friend.
Get
Pause,
some.
dramatic pause. Get some. All right. That's the slogan we're leading into for the next snippet with Jimmy. I think we're both in consulting and service. We a lot in the similar space, B2B, that realm of conglomerates. And I love to kind of pivot so slightly and talk about, how are you, you've mentioned your business making some shifts, your partner, you're getting some amazing new things on board. How do you keep track of the big picture for yourself while simultaneously making sure the smaller micro pieces are getting done? How do you manage that, Jimmy?
Yeah. And you want tools or you want just thought process here?
Let's go with thought process first, because people don't understand the concept. Like you said, if they don't understand the tool, it won't even matter.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to understanding what you do, who you do it for, why you exist, your purpose, your vision, and your mission, which gives you the idea to say yes, but more importantly, to say no to things. I've gotten out of situations this year because they no longer fit the big vision. And you always have to have that, even if you have to go and tape it to the wall to go, this is what's important. And I also have a theme every year. So I think the year before, the 2020 was transformation. 2021, which we're about to get out of, is relationships and partnerships. And 2022 is impact. And in order to make impact, you need to be able to understand where you are so you can figure out where the impact is going to be made, and then I use tools to manage these relationships, so I don't take meetings and I don't go to events that I now know or don't, there's no value. I'm not saying that there has to be value, but again, the value is not money. Value is, how does this support my purpose, vision, and mission? I have one for me and I have one for the company, because we're two different people. And that's not a personal but a professional Jimmy Newsom vision and a professional business vision. And so having these things in front of me really gives me the idea, the structure to maneuver. And that's that box, that structure I'm talking about, that you have to kind of put around yourself. And now you go, this relationship, because now here's the thing, because when now you're trying to maneuver your relationships that are no longer, not that they're not valuable, they're definitely valuable, but they're not necessarily needed at the moment. You're again using data, but the data is you, and the data is the structure you put in place. And so when I have this an awkward conversation with someone that says, hey, right now we have to actually stop this because they go, and then I give them the reasons based on what we're planning on doing, how it benefits me, how it may benefit them. Immediately they go, yeah, I understand, because it just makes sense. But if I didn't do that, now you got this weird energy going on, and now you're not sure if you're friends anymore, and you're not sure, but you just have, but when you're structured to a point where you know why you're doing what you're doing and when to get in and out of situations, then you don't take it personal. And they may be upset, but you're going, but this is the way it is. And they'll respect that. They may not respect that today, but they'll respect that, because when you come back, you can still pick up where you left off, or you can present data that says, I think it's now makes sense for us to continue. I'll tell you an example, because people go, wow, you're doing all this stuff. First of all, I'm tired. I'm good, but I'm tired. But I had started for my new organization. I had events planned in October and November. I had to count, and I had them planned with other people. At the last minute, I realized we need to raise more money. We're getting too many offers. We can't close because we don't have the right situations in place. So I called every one of them and said, we're moving your stuff till next year. And here's why. And here's what that means to you. Here's what that means to me. And here's how we're going to, and every single one of them said, it makes sense to me. And that's a horrible thing to have to tell, outside organizations you're working with, that things have to change when everybody was kind of working on this is what it is, but when you got that clarity and you can back it up with this is why and here's what it shows, then they can't dispute that because it's right in front of your face.
And a lot of people, that's a very unique position to be in the first place, because everyone in their mind, sales, I want to get as much as I can, but if you don't have that awareness of how much capacity can you genuinely truly handle, does it align with your bigger goals? And you said basically, okay, not right now, later. And I'm wondering how many companies, the reason they're falling apart is they're saying yes to so much in the short term and ain't realizing receipts is going to come due in the long term, and they're scatterbrained. Everything is like the Jenga puzzles. Everything is falling apart bit by bit because they don't have that alignment to understand the calculated way to say no.
Yeah. And so that's how I look at it from a thought process. And then from there, you got to have tools. And that's I love technology. Some people are like, oh, technology is going to take over the world. I'm like, the technology is only as good as you using it and understanding it. And with great power comes great responsibility, blah 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 blah. But technology is giving us smaller organizations an opportunity to be big. And the one thing that we can bring to the table that a lot of bigger organizations are not going to be able to bring to the table is the ability to be nimble, to have our ear to the ground, and to be able to move to make decisions fast.
Yep.
And when you're able to do that, it gives you that ability. It gives you the ability to make people happy, and when you make them happy, they want to pay you. And I like being paid.
Of course, I like to be happy by getting paid.
Yes. So the tools are key, and it all depends on what you're doing. I have very specific tools that I use to manage my structure, my team, and then I have tools that help me deliver results to my clients. And one thing that I do, and this is the thing I throw out to people all the time, and I go, those tools are potential partners. Now you got to figure out, how do I leverage this relationship with them? Because at the end of the day, the tool is doing something powerful. And if you are a master of that tool, you now can become an extension of them. And that's what they need the most because they're shorthanded. So how do I leverage that relationship? So, I mean, so there's so many different things here. And then it becomes a competitive advantage. Back to the competition. Now you have a competitive advantage. If two people had the same job and they came and a new client was vetting them, and one guy goes, I do this, and then I come in and I'm like, I got partnerships with this company, so I know how to use those tools. I also teach for them periodically, so I really understand who do you think they're going to go with?
Right. So competitive analysis, a competitive advantage. Ooh, see that transition there? It's not one-dimensional, it's multifaceted.
Yep, and you best believe I use it to the fullest. That's how I get partnerships.
I mean, you are the impact influencer, so I expect nothing less. I was thinking of what you were saying, and I'm big on marketing, and marketing is the running joke is always two things. One, you look at any other person, any other industry, they leave them alone. A marketer, I can do it too. Everybody thinks they can be a marketer. They watch one YouTube video, do one course, and now I'm going to tell you and fight you everything as a marketer. So shout out to all my marketers out there and those who handle marketing. The struggle is real. But, I think moving forward, marketing, has changed and shifted. But at the same time, the core has always been the same. It's understanding your customer. It's speaking their language. And I think I really been pushing my leads generator blueprint, and the totality of it is leveraging language to launch, educate, entertain to enchant, attract and amplify, to activate, dream big and distinguish yourself to drive, and share frequently and support often to shine. And that's lead gen, engagement, authority, demand, and sales. But I always focus on the first three: leverage language to launch, educate, entertain to enchant, and attract and amplify to activate. Those core three pieces at its core, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what platform you're on, is going to help you get results. If you're not
Mhm.
speaking the language that they need to see and hear and understand, it doesn't matter. I was listening to Agency Accelerated. Stephanie Lou is the host,
Mhm.
sponsored by Agora Pulse, and she was interviewing Alan Kay, and they were breaking down, how to do ads in 2022,
Yep.
more the most effective ones. And she was saying how I am a mom, a 6-year-old, and I just want a camera that's nimble, 4K, high quality, and stable. And I got an ad that's basically just telling me those key things, and I bought it. And that was it. I don't need to know all the ins and outs of the features. I just need you to understand where my pain point is and speak to me where I am. Leveraging language to launch. You want to be at the top of their mind, but I think what you do so well, and I think those who are thriving right now is doing very, they're not just educated. Like a webinar is one thing, but it's how you
Mhm.
deliver on that webinar and the results from that webinar and the sub-series of conversations and connections thereafter. It's not just enough to educate. You have to educate and entertain to enchant. And I think that's why we're seeing so much success on TikTok. They're educating, but they're also being entertainers. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people in the B2B space hear me good. Y'all just think I put on my suit and you see I'm wearing a hoodie just because I'm like, I can still help you make money in a hoodie. I don't need to have a full 3-piece suit to help you make money. I just want to break that down. But I see so many B2B spaces where individuals within those spaces where they kind of have this, this one cut way of how they want to approach to market, and they're not entertaining those who they're potentially getting. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of consultant strategists, those in the B2B space are leaving a lot of money on the table because they refused for just a moment to relinquish themselves as just maybe what worked in 2019, which ain't working no more, and be open-minded to change, doing the competitive analysis to see, does this make sense in alignment, and how do I entertain within my space that makes sense for me, not to look stupid, but to be
Mhm.
innovative and different, and hopefully get more business.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm going to do some research on this business on TikTok. But part of the conversation was, when they're not out there dancing to the third degree or doing anything degrading that makes them look bad.
Right.
It is it's but it's more organic. It's authentic, because at this point you may not, I put on a suit for the first time just recently, and it's funny. I was actually on a Zoom call a while back with someone I just met for the first time, and on the second one, I was a bit dressed down, and she she actually said, "Oh, you're kind of dressed down," and I've just gotten so used to it because I'm real. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I'm just like, hey, the farthest I go now for a Zoom is, all right, what nice shirt that's not wrinkled am I going to put on? Because the
Yes.
content is the king at
Yes.
this point. You're on a journey of trust and authority. And if they're meeting you for the first time, you're in an awareness stage. If
Yep.
you had the opportunity to collect their info and they're following you, now it's warm until the point where they become hot because you get them to a point where they're ready to make a purchase. But there is that especially the younger generation is expecting a lot more transparency, and you coming in here and you're being to a degree more relatable, almost like you're at the house. You went over to their house and it's kind of an informal get together. You're not necessarily going to dress in a suit, so you'll still dress professional,
Sure.
but a little bit looser. So because it was funny, I was just noticing your jacket, and I was like, "That's kind of nice," I didn't say anything, but yeah. So it's, and I mean, and even competitive research is looking at what your peers are doing on
Yeah.
video. If they're all still dressing in suits, you probably should. And
Probably
then
should.
maybe it's like
Perception.
it could be like accounting or finance. But if you see they're all dressed in suits because you did some competitive analysis, you might go, how can I buck the system
Right.
but still try to figure out how to make it work? So that there's an opportunity because you did the research, but now of course you still got to you got to figure out, can I make it work, or is it going to just totally make me look totally unprofessional? And those are decisions you can make after you've done research enough to go, okay, well, I know what I'm going up against, so I'm not blind to the fact.
Right. And then the other point to this test
Yeah.
is marketing, sale, all of it is a series of just trial and error, testing. Without testing, you don't know if your hypothesis is true. You don't know if the data based off what you're looking at is going to make sense for you until you test and prove it to be true or prove it to be false, and then make adjustments. I think too many times we're hesitant to just test. If the feedback is dramatically no, then you know. But if it's a more of a slow burn and you got a window that you've assigned, not for the audience and industry, you've assigned a 30, 60, 90, whatever the case might be, to see, did we see any changes? Do we see more mentions? I think sometimes we even miss, the data, but beyond the data. Our conversations happening that we're not tracking, but is bringing in new conversations, new leads, new opportunities. We're having more mentions. We're getting more organic growth without us really doing anything. We didn't even touch that platform, but for some reason we're growing on that platform. Where is that coming from? Are we seeing our bounce rate going down? Are we seeing our sessions going up on based off efforts or coming from sources that we didn't promote, that we didn't do? But it all came back from maybe this slight shifts. But we won't know none of this stuff until we're in the testing phase. And I think that's the key thing with if you're dealing with corporate, if you're dealing with executives, you have to also make it clear that we are now in a testing environment where let's just ride the wave a little bit and see what we get. We can't just go in for one day and it didn't work, we're out. We got to see why it's not working. What if we did all this research and competitive analysis to justify this course of action? We have to at least see it through to a certain timestamp of why it is or isn't working, or how do we build on top of it.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely got to give it time to work. It's still marketing, and we know marketing can take a while to catch on. And you got to allot a bit of time for experimentation. You definitely have to understand, especially if you haven't done it before. If you haven't done it before, you're still, even though you see that your competitors are doing it, you still have to get used to it until you master it. And you're going to have to give it time to grow. And that's where, that is the next step after the market research. But it doesn't stop there. You should be doing an analysis every 3 to 6 months, because that's how much this stuff can change. Right. Especially because if COVID didn't do anything other than just mess up a lot of people's lives, it let us know that you have more people online than ever before. Because if you weren't online, you were invisible. So now you got all these businesses going online. 2, in 2020, 4.3 million new business applications were filed during the year of 2020. That's 4.3 million. So somebody in that 4.3 million is competition to you, no matter what industry you're in.
Or opportunities too.
Yeah, and they're probably, they could be older individuals who decided they didn't want to go back in the workforce. There could be younger ones that decided this is the route they want to take, but you best believe they're going with a digital strategy. They're going with a strategy that's going to help them break ground quicker, move faster, and grow, because it's cheaper, it's faster. No one's, they're not going to be dropping money on television commercials and even radio ads and print mag. I mean, you could be up and running in 5 minutes in most situations. But if you want to see success, you need a strategy. You need a strong strategy, and that strategy is partially based on doing the research of those competitive business. If you need to determine, again, one of my nephews, he wants to start. He created a pizza sauce, and he's already been giving it out, and people love it. And I'm like, hey, you need testimonials first. And I go, and 2, you need to determine the size of the market. Yep. Because that's going to tell you, do I start locally? Can I go bigger? Is there a partner I can discover here? Because everybody's looking for an opportunity. You might have exactly what someone else needs, and it makes such a great partnership that you might not even have to come out of pocket for certain aspects. I go, but if you don't do the research, then you're just going to be building this thing in a vacuum. And I go, and the worst thing you're going to do is you're going to finish the whole thing, and then you're going to put it out there, and people are going to go, don't like it. Hey, that's just like that other thing. I'm not switching. Yeah. Why am I going to switch? It's more of a pain in the butt to switch to you than to just stay where I'm at, even if it's a few dollars cheaper. It's not worth the effort.
Yeah, I don't think enough businesses still to this day to do enough TAM and seeing your total available market and your serviceable available market and understanding where those align is seeing what makes sense. Who do I really need to go after? I don't think people till now still don't do enough. And like you said, more people are online more than ever, which means there's more data out there more than ever for you to understand and process and seeing what makes sense for you to make your conscious decisions of where your brand and business need to be positioned and who you need to target to have those conversations. And if we're making a shift, and I'd love for you to kind of restate again your word for 2022 and the frame that you're looking at for 2022. And I think, as we're, coming to the final stretch of this thing, of this moment anyway, I feel like people are still, and maybe even myself, are just constantly searching for answers. They're looking for a clear, unequivocal direction of where they need to go to maybe still probably recover from 2020 and 2021 to get to that next leap. And, they hear, okay, Jimmy says, look through the data. And they probably looking at Matrix right now, the new movie coming. We're not going to talk about that. But
I want to over that.
It gets into the old vibes and the OG vibes. We're not going to talk about 3. I don't know what that was. They just got greedy and didn't have to happen, but I watched it anyway. Okay, I digress. Go listen to it. My point was, when you're looking at the business of 2022 and you're saying, okay, I got to look through the data, but I don't know how to determine if this data is even the right data. And if it is the right data, how do I interpret the data to decide on what actions I need to take outside of obviously the obvious choice, probably hire you, bring you on your team on for consultation, but right. What can they do they have the data. How do they decipher it? What key things can you maybe give them to maybe think on?
Yeah. So, all right. So let's start with the word. So my theme, actually, I'm sorry, not the word. My theme is impact and leadership for this year, for moving into 2022, because, and I chose that, and it could be a little weird. They're like, well, I'm a small business, so that's not where my head's at. In actuality, you as the owner or the key person in this small organization, you are in a position of leadership, and your small business is making an impact, and that impact could be global, national, regional, or local. And if you ask me to pick one, I'd pick local, because you dominate your backyard. So with that in mind, every business has the ability to impact the community that they're in. And so that in itself, it really resonates with the younger generation, and it shows a level of transparency, and it gets people to like you for other reasons other than your products. Okay. And when they're able to do that, now you can have real authentic conversations with them and then of course there's this obligation that they have to use your products, so at that point, now that you understand what that is, now you need to look at the landscape. So I'll throw out a couple of tools. So href.com or SEMrush, or there's some tools. You can go to the public library, and they have databases that allow you to do research. And usually in most cases, especially in New York, the librarians will do a lot of the data research on your behalf for free. Okay. And just understanding what the market is like, because it's definitely changed.
Yeah.
So you need to understand what the market is now, and then take that into consideration, understanding that you already have everything about who you are and what you do, meaning your purpose, vision, and mission. You have all this stuff. You need to start collecting data on the industry, and you need to define who are your new current competitors and do a competitive analysis of them. And you can do that with some of these tools, and you're not going to get everything, but you're going to get things like the traffic, their monthly traffic, what pages are getting the most traffic, because you can go and look at those pages and see what's on those pages, because that's the other side of understanding. All right, this page they have on here is getting 5,000 hits a month, and this page has the same product that we sell. So, well, there's something about this page that Google likes, because Google is putting them in front of people that don't know them, but Google will continue to put people in front of that page if that page is performing well. If that page sucks, Google's going to go, oop, not giving them this page again, because Google's not in the business of disappointing people.
Nope.
Google makes it a point to make sure that people get what they're looking for. So it's a key indicator that they're doing something right. And that's the part of, if it's, you really do need to define your goals, because maybe content marketing is not that I'm talking content marketing here. That might not be the thing for you. It could be SEO. It could be paid ads. You have no track. Your product is hot. You develop a product that's hot. The industry is hot, but you have no authority on your website. Well, you're going to probably need to do some type of partnership or ads, because you need traffic. You need traffic. And no one wants to go and drop tons of money on ads. So you need partnerships with the people who have the ideal client base, the same demographic that you have. That's more of a partner than a competitor, aka threat. And you make those partnerships. I like I said, I'm dealing with a major organization right now, and they ask me, "What is it in it for you?" Because I'm doing some educational stuff for them. I go, and I knew exactly what I go. This is what I look up. This is what I'm looking for. I go, this is what we stand for. And our objective is to get people to watch more of our stuff and interact with us and possibly become a member, and this and that. And I go, and for that, we're willing to do this stuff here for free, because the value there outweighs the amount of effort that's going to take for me to do what I need to do to get there. But understanding that my competitors won't do that, or they're not up on it, or they don't do it well enough. And when you know that, you can be very clear, and the relationship, the conversation was so fluid and so very easy, because I knew what to say. And so when she would say stuff, I write it down. I'm Googling while she's talking, just so I can fully understand things sometimes. But you really have to understand the landscape, and that's really the bottom line. And unfortunately, there are a lot of steps to that, but that's not for this conversation. This conversation is really mindset, getting yourself in a position to go. 2022 is coming around. People are spending money. So if anybody's saying, well, nobody's spending money, you know how much money I spent this week? I wasn't happy about it, but somebody still got my money. I'm sure somebody got your money too. So that's not an excuse. The excuse is you're not doing what you need to do to understand how to be in front of the right people when they're ready to spend that money.
And I like to, I don't think people do enough introspection. They don't do enough introspection from the leaders, top to bottom, where we are as an identity, if you're a small business, corp, whatever, where we are as a business. And then individually, where are you? Where's that alignment? And what do you need to do to get it? You can't hide behind, I don't want to look at the data. I don't want to even go pull data because I don't want to know the truth. Now, if you don't know the reality of where you are, where your business, where you're positioned in, you can't help. You can't help. You don't know what to do. And so I think, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think like I said, what I don't want people to do, especially if they're hearing this conversation, is go, I really need to do that, but I need to find time for it. No, you must find time for this, because if not, one of my mentors says you can be enthusiastically going in the wrong direction. And that is where you end up paying, because you're still not where you need to be. And and to some degree, you might be further than where you were supposed to be. So this is with us doing this new plan, I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of my time has been spent on research, period. Competitive research, understanding my competitors, really determining, because the more I do that, the clearer I am on how this organization is going to run. If I had to sit back and think, how is this organization going to run? Oh, I think I should, no, I got nothing. You see how that's, I'm telling you, every time I'm on a webinar or training, someone says something, I go, bam, that's exactly what I needed. It's research. And I'm going, that is so clear. And now I have to determine, and does that apply to me? And you know where you need to go because you're in your industry to find the information. Now you just need to get it. So show up, get that information, and then drop that into what is going on in your business. But you need to block out some time in your calendar and go, we're going to do some research, because I guarantee you're going to discover something. You're going to go out, holy crap, I am so happy I did this.
Ooh,
Knowledge is
just,
power, Faye. You tell them. And
ooh.
Michael, thanks for going. That's my recommendation to you. You make the time.
Do you want to survive or not? Or I like to say, do you want to thrive or not? And are you going to put in the work, the research that when you go on the back end and take that action, it's going to be very calculated to the point where there's a high chance of success. May the odds ever be in your favor. Well, what's the way to increase your odds? Knowing the landscape, knowing what you're walking into, knowing every corner blindfold if you can. You can avoid all the potholes and be very calculated about getting to that destination in 2022. And so I know I want to speak to those who are watching now and watching the replay. Jimmy, you just dropping gems all day, and you just focus on the concepts. You just focus on the mindset overlay. We ain't go deep into the tools, deep into the stuff of the process and the systems and the way to quantify benchmarks and OKRs and KPIs. And nerdy said that may intimidate some folk. That's a whole webinar, and that's whole pay the man the money for him to speak on what you're trying to speak on.
And we don't have to do that. Just, I don't mean to cut you off. That's what we do at Moving Forward. We do the actual training on platforms. Mm-hmm. So I have, I wasn't sure if I should drop it in the chat or if I should put it on the LinkedIn page. I actually set up a webinar to kind of move this process forward, and we're going to dive into tools that I use to start this initial process. So I created one specifically for this talk here, just in case we had a lot of people that were like interested in understanding that, because it is daunting when you hear the keyword, comparative research, you're like, that hurts. I don't know what that is, or I don't know. I heard it, but I have no clue where to start. Well, these are the things that we're doing with my new organization to go, well, here's how you use it, and this is why, because we need that.
I agree. And we'll make sure that we put that link in the comments of the event on LinkedIn and YouTube, or wherever you're watching. So how can people connect with you, and your final thoughts leading into the end of the conversation?
Sure. They can connect. They can Google me. I'm an SEO head. So you type in my name, Jimmy Newson. I own the first 5 pages. All of the Jimmy Newsons, you're done. All right.
Enter that swag, yo. That's where you want to get to as far as SEO.
Yeah. Or you can go to jimmynewson.com or my organization, movingforwardsmallbusiness.com. But I'm easy to find. If you guys, one of the best ways to connect with me is LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. And my final thought is, like I said, you guys are all powerful. You all have the ability to make impact. You impact the community, whether you realize it or not. Even if you sell pins, you impact the community, because without pins, we can't write down our thoughts for all those that want to. And I like writing down stuff all the time. Bam! Even though I got my computers and I'm all technologically advanced.
Love it. I honestly, I appreciate when I see a brother just spitting gems and speaking truth. I know everybody like, oh, I'm gonna say it for me. I appreciate you, Jimmy. I appreciate what you've been doing on the channels. And again, lastly, what we're doing right now was a cultivation of a slow nurturing of conversations.
Yeah.
I think people don't think about networking enough. And it's not that like you said before, I'm not looking for something out of it right now. Mm-hmm. I'm sowing those seeds that it can come through, and you know where it may come from. We had I think I can speak on it very lightly, a conversation where I'm like, I saw something. I don't know anything about it. I know Jimmy does, and I plugged you in, and maybe something comes out of that. And it's just simply understanding, having conversations, and being just genuine and authentic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, I think sometimes in LinkedIn, I don't have the right title. My business ain't this. It ain't full. If you are an authentic and you're a go-getter and you position yourself and you be authentic in how you articulate yourself, the right people are going to see you, connect with you. Faye, I see you, and they're going to want to help you. They're going to want to support you in any way that they can. Even in this moment, we're giving value. I'm sure we all want to get paid and make money too once this thing closes off. The rate's going up, 2022, whatever. But I just want to take this moment to acknowledge you and thank you, and showing others that if you just take the time, I don't have time. If you make time to start sowing those seeds and having those conversations, doing not just a competitive analysis, but I think, like you said, a partnership analysis. Who can I collaborate with? And how can I be that Play-Doh and fit into those holes to maybe help them. They'll remember. That doesn't mean that they may pay you directly, but they may refer business to you. They may give you features and opportunities, and it's just being patient. If you're doing all the right things, at the end of the day, you have to be patient.
Yeah, you do have to be patient, but you got to understand, why am I doing this? So you understand why you're doing it, and then you stick with it until it pays off. So and the same with you. Like I said, it's been a pleasure knowing you and getting to know you. And like I said, there's not anything that you can't even ask me that I would say no to, because you're just that authentic, and I have to be there for you.
I appreciate you, brother. Bet you, big bro.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. It's been a real one. Till next time, enjoy.